So you want 650 Again, I get it as correct as I possibly can. And then the next thing you've got to do is you then rub your you get hold of the starter and you tear it apart, and it's a little bit like making crumble, and so you've got to completely rub in your starter, which is really like a dough, into the flour. And note that this is sea salt. It's basically grey French natural sea salt that I've got 20 grams of. It's quite a lot, but it's all natural and it needs that to form a really good crust, and the bread tastes much better with that. So this is all incorporated now. This is what it looks like. All my starter is nicely incorporated into this mixture. Now you add 650 ml of water, and now you've got to mix this, and this ends up being like wet porridge. So now it's basically incorporating the whole thing into, I would call it a porridge. And before you put it on your worktop to knead it, the easiest I found by far is to have a stone worktop to do it with. I think it's very difficult if you don't have a stone worktop. You then turn, with the help of your spatula, your porridge out of your bowl. And now the fun begins. And before you start, now is the time also, or do it later, which I think normally, you can incorporate the salt into your porridge, and you start kneading the bread. And there's a very special way of doing this. So what you do is you go in with your hand, lift it, and then you go over. So you basically always stuck to it, but as you will see, basically, what's the time now? It's 57. I reckon in 10 minutes this is done. And this is the best bingo win workout there ever is. So you can use the spatula to bring the bread together. Then you go in and you just develop a rhythm. And the idea is every time you flip it over and pick it back up, you're trapping air. And that's the most important thing. You're stretching the gluten, but also you're trapping air. And that's what makes the dough come together eventually into something that's still going to be sticky, but you can deal with. Whereas now look at it. It does not come off your hands. But after 10 minutes of doing this, it does come off your hands. And I'm already perfected this by doing it a few times. I'm so much better at it already. to start with, you really have to persevere, because you just don't believe that you could ever get such a sticky mess into a dough that actually comes off your fingers. And right, so now you are allowed to use some flour to get the dough back into the bowl. But as you can see, this is still, by any measure or means, for anyone's standard, you would think this is far too wet. But believe me, it's not. So you take a bit of flour, and you now, again, you cannot be too slowly with it. You sort of have to, that's it. And what I do is I give it this, and then put just a tiny bit in there, and you have to, until you can basically pick it up. I sort of twist it underneath. Right. That's it. That's now going to be rested in the steam oven.